Well, through January we have some slightly different services, and we had a wonderful interview with Tina and Kerry last week, and today I'm delighted to say we are interviewing Dani, our wonderful Dani. So come on down, Dani. It's always quite nerve-wracking getting up here and turning around and seeing everybody, isn't it? But welcome. You are in a community who loves you and supports you, don't we? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you for being willing to come and share a bit of your story this morning, Dani. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
How long have you been part of Adamstown for?
It'll be about 3 years this Easter, so Palm Sunday.
Nice. So literally a year before I came, you came.
Yeah.
Nice. Excellent. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here before I got here. For those of you who haven't had the chance to get to know you over the last 3 years, or maybe are new to Adamstown themselves, tell us a little bit about who is Dani? Who are you?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. So Dani, pronouns she, her. Always grown up in Newcastle. Basically lived around Newcastle most of my life. Parents are all still here. Grew up in Katara. So I know I live by the Newcastle connection of like 1 degree of separation, and it includes this place. I worked out that when I went through my thing, my baptism certificate was signed by Jenny Barnes. When I was at West Wall's End, at Moortar West, Heather was my peer support kid when she was in Year 7, I was Year 10, and Jenny Moylan was actually one of my Sunday school teachers at Katara South when I was a kid.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's so Newcastle.
It's so Newcastle if you've grown up here. I am an occupational therapist now, but I've been many things in my life. I've worked in retail for Coles many, many years. I was a social worker to begin with, been a massage therapist, and now an occupational therapist, predominantly with kids.
Amazing. And for those who might not know what OT is,
yes.
What is it?
So occupational therapy helps people do what they need and want to in the world. So, and the occupation, so the things that take up their time and interest, or the things that they need to do for jobs, school, etc. So I predominantly work with kids, mainly kids who are have developmental delay or autism, ADHD, anxiety, that type of stuff. And it's helping them to do gross motor skills, so running, jumping, throwing, fine motor skills, handwriting, sitting. Attention is a really big one, and a lot of emotional regulation, so learning how to feel their emotions and not completely shut down or melt down straight away, and just giving them a little bit more space, and also helping their parents work out strategies that work for them, particularly for their sensory processing, because a lot of those kids have differences, myself included, in sensory processing. So
amazing. What a gift to families to be able to give that to them.
Yeah.
As a parent of kids who are neurodivergent, I know that even in conversation you've dropped little bits of wisdom like, oh yeah, I'm going to use that with my kids. So I can only imagine how blessed your kids are to have you in that space with them. What do you enjoy about it?
I actually really love just being with kids. Neurodivergent attracts neurodivergent, so I find it really easy to connect with those kids. But it's also giving them, one, that knowledge so that they don't think that there's something intrinsically wrong with them, that they just are differently wired as opposed to wrong for whatever that looks like for people, and also to give parents hope, because a lot of the time it's, they've got deficits, which I hate. There are difficulties that you have to manage, but there are so many strengths in being wired differently, and seeing those and playing those up, but also finding ways to manage some of the differences that can be pretty much, I think, from how our society is structured and some of the systems, rather than explicitly because you are wired differently.
I love that. And that kind of gives such a great explanation of what neurodivergence is, that it's just a different wiring of the brain.
Absolutely.
I mean, when I was growing up, I'd never heard the word neurodivergent. Is everyone else the same? It's just like it's a new kind of understanding.
Yeah.
And I mean, I worked in schools as a teacher, and we definitely had, we had an awareness of different abilities within the classroom, but we didn't have an awareness of, but when I was there, we didn't have an awareness of neurodivergence. And I know now you cannot be a teacher in a classroom without knowing this, because it's pretty much it's everywhere, right? And
well, neurodivergence typically, in the wider sense, sort of basically includes people who are autistic, have ADHD, sometimes dyslexia is in with that, and then comorbidities that go with that. So that's typically, but people also have like synesthesias, so things where their senses are differently wired. So a lot of musicians have it where they listen to music and see colours and things like that. So you can actually have cross wires in the brain that give you remarkable abilities, but you have to manage those in different environments and have sensory. A lot of it is around sensory differences. So yeah, it's, even I growing up, like we knew about ADHD, but it was only about boys and hyperactive.
Yeah, hyperactive, the naughty boys. That's what ADHD was.
Yes, it's not me.
Yeah.
And I am.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your neurodivergence, what that means for you, how you define it, all of that.
So basically I define it as differently wired, have a differently wired nervous system. I've always had that. I was always a really anxious kid, and I'd be anxious about things that other people didn't, and it was also just from environments as well. So I've always, when I look back at it now, I'm like, oh yeah, I always reacted to certain textures, sounds, things differently than what is expected. And I always communicate differently. I tend to talk in tangents, and I also tend to talk from either info dump, so put a lot of information out at times. I'm aware of it, so I can sometimes pull myself back, and I've given Greer permission to pull me back in if I do it today.
If I go, okay, Dani, thanks. I'm not being rude, I have permission.
I have permission. And also, I tend to talk from my own lived experience, because neurodivergent communication, not everybody, but a lot of it can be me too. This is my lived experience as well. So my own experience of that is because you sometimes feel like you're the only person that does that. And it's sort of by going, oh yeah, me too, and this is what I experienced, blah, blah, blah. It sort of feels like you're normalising it for other people, and you're also going, you're not the only one.
Yeah. So growing up, you had that feeling of, I'm different. I don't experience the world in the same way as everybody else. That must have been pretty hard, terrifying?
Yeah.
What's the adjective? What's the emotion?
Overwhelming.
Overwhelming, yeah.
I have a distinct feeling of kindergarten, first class, being like, how do people understand all these social nuances?
Right.
How do people understand how to make friends?
Yeah.
All this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm really good at feeling what other people are feeling. So I made friends with people who were either also neurodivergent or were more vulnerable. Yeah. And I was their counsellor. Yeah. I was that type of
That's
friend.
often one of the strengths of neurodivergent people, isn't it? This incredible emotional awareness and intelligence and intuitiveness, I guess. I've been with friends who identify as ASD, and they say, oh, what's going on? I sense you're feeling this. And I'm like, what? Am I feeling that? Oh, I am. How did you know that before me? Because they have this insight to pick up on cues, and they're so socially aware because they're trained to learn to see what's going on for people.
You're reading the room and you're trying to work out what you're supposed to do because you don't.
It doesn't come naturally.
How to do it.
Yeah. And that can be the case with humour too, can't it? Like someone can tell a joke and it's like, I don't understand the humour of that.
Sarcasm just goes straight over the top of my head. So unless I know you and I know you're really, really sarcastic, I then will assume that you are being sarcastic and react from there. But other than that, I've got to put it through a 3-step thing of like, is this person normally that? Is their orientation being towards mean or whatever it happens to be? No. Okay. Then if they're not doing that, then therefore they're being sarcastic. Run through it. also means I'm not very easily fooled when people are trying to pull a prank.
Right, because you don't
Because I put it
believe
through
things.
the three-step thing of like, is that logical? Does that make sense? Does that make sense for the person who they're telling it about or whatever? No, it doesn't.
That's good. I could do with a bit of that. I'm so gullible. I just believe anything anyone says. It's not good. I shouldn't reveal my secrets, should I? So how did you come to an understanding, like this experience of growing up and feeling different? How did you then come to an understanding to go, oh, this is what's going on for me?
So I basically spent my 20s doing lots of, what's the word? Self-help, also spiritual, exploration, seeking, all this sort of stuff. And when I was in my early 30s, I came across a book called The Highly Sensitive Person. And that book basically said there are people who have differently wired nervous systems who are more sensitive to basically sensory processing stuff. And also it's linked to being an introvert as opposed to an extrovert, blah, blah, blah. There's still core components of that really are useful, but it was just, for me, the thing of like, I'm just differently wired, this is my word and not anybody else's. I'm not a freak.
Yeah, yep. Because that's how you felt.
That's how I felt. It's like, why can't I do things like everybody else?
Yeah, yeah.
So that was, I went, okay. And then rabbit holes, as I do. Looked at only within the last 10 years, tangent, has there been any information out specifically on ASD for women?
Yeah, yeah.
So I started looking at what that entails, and I'm like, yep. And so I've self-identified as that. I haven't gone to get a actual diagnosis of that yet, but that is actually a plan this year because it works for my brain to have understanding.
Yeah.
And then I just assumed that, and I'd also done a lot of self-exploration around sensory sort of processing. And one of my clients was an OT, and we literally started talking about that as a massage therapist, and through her, she's actually now my boss.
That's great.
I decided to go back and do the OT degree. And as I started doing the OT degree, one of my friends had got herself diagnosed as ADHD, and we just started a conversation. We're very similar. And she just said to me, because I was back at uni, always did really, really well academically, but struggled with procrastination, getting stuff done, all that sort of stuff. Always got it done on time because I'm anxious about that. Yeah. But the amount of stress that went with some of that was ridiculous.
But then you got a university award, didn't you?
This time. With medication.
With medication.
And 20 years of working and stuff.
20 years of working on it and medication. And what was the award you got? I just want to brag
University
on
medal.
University medal. How good is that on my graduation? So fabulous. Yeah.
So we were having a conversation and she went, what are you going to do to write like an assignment? And I'm like, well, I've got to eat a whole block of chocolate. I've got to have a whole thing of Coke. And have music going at the same time, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, honey, you shouldn't have to work that hard to write an assignment.
Yeah.
And she's like, I think you might be have ADHD. I'm like, oh no, I can read a whole Harry Potter book in a day. And she went, that's called hyperfocus. Yeah. The minute I learnt about hyperfocus, I went, oh.
Yeah, makes sense. So, and it comes back to that thing, right, that in the past, we just knew of ADHD and thought of naughty boys and Ritalin and kind of negativity around medication. But now our understanding of that has grown so much, and our understanding of how that presents in a whole range of people, and it looks different for different people.
And there's even different subtypes as well. So there's inattentive, hyperactive, or combination. So I'm I am inattentive, but I've probably got a little bit of hyperactive in that you'll see my hands doing this, I talk like this, I do a lot of this.
We're dancers though, so this comes with...
So this moves a lot.
That's great.
So
Yeah, nice. And medication and understanding and all of that is making a difference.
They're all tools.
They're all tools.
They're all tools, and I literally did a 4-year degree to understand how to... I've done 2 4-year degrees.
Yeah.
Social work was to learn social skills, communication, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
OT was learning how to sensory
others.
processing, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, it's such a gift to have that knowledge and then to be able to utilise it and use it and make the world a better place for other people.
A little bit.
A little bit. If we could know something, I identify as neurotypical. If neurotypical people could know something to be more helpful for neurodivergent people, what would it be? Is there one or two? I'm pretty sure there's 1,000 things, but is there something that you could offer us to be able to be more welcoming and supportive and helpful for neurodivergent people?
Yeah. Two things I can think straight off the top of my head. Yeah. It sounds weird, but like, if you met one neurodivergent person, you've met one neurodivergent person. Yeah. So just because your nephew has ADHD and someone else says they've got ADHD but it doesn't look like their nephew, that's because their profile is different. They might have a different subtype. They have different preferences and different ways of doing things. Even with all my kids, they might have the same diagnosis, but it's a spectrum for a reason for ASD, but even ADHD is very... It's like one thing that'll work for one kid will go, oh, no, there's no way. Yeah. So it's like being open to, oh, okay, how does this work for you? Being curious.
Great.
As opposed to going, oh, we're doing something for an autistic person. This is exactly what this will work for them. It's like, no way. Yeah. It might work for this person, but it only might work on this day when they've got this window of tolerance. Yeah. It's like just being open. Hey, does this work for you? Being a bit flexible around... If you need to go move, you need to go whatever, that's fine. Not having an expectation that we meet.
Treating each person as an individual and recognising that their needs are going to be different.
Yep.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yep. And the other thing is, I suppose what is called the double empathy problem, where there is, particularly I'm thinking about with kids particularly, there's an expectation that kids... learn social skills to communicate with neurotypical people, so to communicate in a way that is expected or to whatever. And people go, oh, the kids don't express empathy in the way that is typically like eye contact.
Sure.
It's like, oh, you're being rude if you're not looking at people and stuff like that. I don't.
It's not your
value
system?
Yep. I don't hold that at all because I know for myself, really intense eye contact literally sends my nervous system into overwhelm. Yeah. I can do this and look away. Yep. This, look away, whatever, but I can't do.
Wow.
Literally, bodily reaction. That was not fake. Like that really is
too much.
Too intense.
So when you say double empathy,
double empathy is that there's not always empathy back towards people who communicate differently or have different ways. They've done experiments where they've asked for cross communications. We've done research between communications between neurodivergent people and neurotypical people, which are people who are typically wide. It's not, I know everyone's different and whatever, but basically operate how society is set up to be. And there is mismatches, but if you get neurodiverse people to communicate within themselves, they can do it. So there's not a deficit in communication, it's a mismatch in styles.
Okay, that's beautiful. It's good wisdom and knowledge. And it's interesting. Just as I've been sitting here thinking, I think, oh, I just said I'm neurotypical, and I am neurotypical, but I also recognise that I have...
You have traits.
I have traits. No. We have these conversations all the time.
Yes,
like, I know that there are things that I do. Like, I actually couldn't probably be sitting there and listening like 99% of you are. I'd need to be drawing or playing a game or writing or doing something.
And just because you've got traits doesn't mean that you are... need a diagnosis or anything like that. It's whether it impacts functionally on your life so much that is getting in the way of you of doing the things you need or want to do.
Yeah, and I hear people say, the ASD, like the spectrum, that we're all on the spectrum, and I actually...
makes my skin crawl.
Tell me about that.
Because I understand, because a lot of people might have traits, but it's not... The difference between it having a bit of traits, but you can go, oh yeah, I can get past it, to it in some ways, to me, feels like it negates the difficulties or the 15 extra steps that I have to do that are just internal, that no one else sees, and the amount of cognitive load just to do a typical thing.
Yeah. And the spectrum isn't from a little bit to a lot.
No.
It's like you say, different profiles, different things that...
So it's not...
different elements
I'm
of
a little bit... They have graded it, like in terms of, like, you can have ASD 1, ASD 2, ASD 3. But doesn't mean that as someone with ASD 1, which is what I typically think, which is the old Asperger's, but we don't say Asperger's anymore because it's associated with Nazism. There are certain environments that I am really badly impacted in.
Yeah.
So anything too noisy with noise coming across here and you trying to talk to me at the same time, auditory processing, I literally will shut down and I will not be able to talk. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I'm really, really impacted here. But you put me in an environment
different
that works
context.
And I'm fine.
Yeah. So it's just a process of learning, isn't it? What works for you and the strategies you need in different places, making places safe for you.
Yes.
And, and you get to do that with the kids that you work with, help them do that.
Yeah, and trial and error.
Yeah.
And it's okay to go, oh yeah, that didn't work. Okay, what else can we do?
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about why you came to Adamstown 3 years ago? What brought you here?
So, I grew up in the Uniting Church, so up to about age 9 or 10, so Waratah West and then Katara South. And then we moved away as a family, did nippers, did all that sort of stuff, was always more spiritually orientated, and from, say, probably late teens through to when I sort of, probably a couple of years before I came here, done a lot of seeking. Yeah. So I worked in Jewish summer camps, I've been to ashrams in India, I've done just a lot of very hippie stuff, I suppose you would call it, New Age, that sort of stuff, but always had that core of, I believe in God and Jesus is a really cool dude. Yeah. The social justice stuff, all that sort of stuff, which just aligns. And I just always felt a calling, but didn't know where to go. Knew I needed a progressive, values-aligned, open, inclusive church. And this is going to sound so weird, but I started watching a TV show called The Chosen, which is a historical and culturally accurate depiction of Jesus' life over many, many years. And that just, for me, built a stronger personal connection with Jesus himself. And some of the community that I'd had previously had sort of dissipated. And I was talking to some people at uni who were church people, and I went to stuff with them and went, yeah, that doesn't work. Doesn't fit right. But I was feeling like, go the other way, find your thing. So I literally Googled progressive liberal churches, Newcastle, and got Hamilton or Adamstown, and I danced in Hamilton's hall every second Sunday. And I'm like, no, I'm going to Adamstown instead.
It's good. Either option, great options. But I'm glad you went with us. So you dance every second Sunday. Tell us a little bit about that and what that means to you.
So I do a dance practice called 5 Rhythms, which is basically a dance practice where you move your body through basically a whole nervous system, all the way up to sort of surrender, release, and then back into reset. So it puts it sort of through. So it's a way to move energy, emotions, whatever's in your body without overanalyzing it.
Yeah, nice.
Because I am an overthinker to the max, and I've spent a very long time getting reacquainted with my body and being grounded, because I have a tendency to spiral up. So that has massively helped in my ability to be grounded, to be centred, and to use it like I literally did 2 minutes of movement, 5 rhythms in there before I came out to do today. Yeah. I've always been a dancer. I've always danced. remember dancing down the hallway when I was 4, whatever, and Mum went, right, we're putting you into a jazz class. Like,
nice.
So I've done every type of different dance. I find it really regulating, and it's actually something I'm coordinated in. Sorry, that's a bit loud. I'm actually coordinated in dance, where I'm not always the most coordinated person in real life.
Your body feels at home in it.
Yes, and the beat.
Yeah, nice.
The beat
grounds you and
just
holds
grounds.
you. Would you call it a faith practice for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
How do I?
It's hard to put it into words.
Yeah,
isn't it?
and I do have difficulty sometimes putting into words what I feel, because I feel a lot, and pretty intensely, which is part of neurodivergence. For me, it's a place to, particularly 5 rhythms, because it goes through the different stages, which sort of crescendos in what we call chaos, but which is release or surrender, which surrender is a really important thing to me. So it's a way to take something to the dance floor and just see how it's feeling in my body, what's moving, and then clarity comes through that process.
Nice.
I don't know how to describe anything other than that, and then, I don't know, things come through, and it's just movement. Like, you're being danced as opposed to dancing.
Yeah, makes perfect sense to me.
Yes.
I hope everyone else understands it.
If not, I can come and talk to you about it a bit later.
As a fellow
Or
dancer.
come and do embody.
Come and join
you might
embody. Yeah, that's
understand.
right. Yeah. There's this beautiful sense of release and letting go, and the spirit being with you and moving through you.
Not needing to be in control.
Yes.
That's a huge thing for me. That's why I literally picked the psalm.
Yes, well, that was my next question. Tell me about the psalm that you chose for us today.
So it's about being known, being good enough, just as I am,
Yep.
which is huge, and being known exactly as I am and being protected. Sounds a bit weird, but if constantly you're feeling like your environment's actually in some ways attacking you,
There's danger and risk.
There's danger and risk everywhere.
Yeah.
So and you might say or do something wrong that is interpreted wrongly. That's more historical. Now I don't really care.
Great.
But, or I'll go, hey, I recognise I'm doing this. This is why.
Yeah.
But it's just a sense of surrender. Is like, I do my best. He knows me, and he's there for me. They, whatever. Like, I have a very nebulous conception.
Yeah.
Are there for me, and they show up in the world for me if I look.
Yeah, beautiful. That God's there.
Yeah.
If you look. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dani, for sharing your heart and your story with us today, and having the courage, right, when you have that sense of the world and the world doesn't always meet you where you're at, to have the courage to come and share your story. I really appreciate it. Can we give Dani our love, please?
And happy to talk about this to anybody because it's my topic of interest. So I can talk about this stuff for hours, not about me, but about sensory processing, neurodivergence, all this sort of stuff.
And I mean, we're on a journey as a church, right? We have our Sunflower Corner.
Yes.
For people who don't know what sunflowers are about, do you want to just give a little...
Yeah, so sunflower is the universally agreed symbol for invisible disabilities. So you'll see on a lot of flights and things like that, people will have like sunflower lanyards and things like that, just that notify people that I have some differences that you might not see, but might mean that I react differently, and therefore please talk to me. Have curiosity, not judgment.
Yep. Beautiful. And so we have our little Sunflower Corner there for people who might just want some time out and not necessarily be talked to. We're such a welcoming and loving church, but sometimes that's
very overwhelming.
So it's a nice little safe space. And we had our quiet service for Christmas too, which was so lovely. Dani was a big part in helping make that happen. So if you've seen the quiet shopping hours at supermarkets, it's like the idea of that, a quiet service to be able to offer a quieter space, low lights, low sound, nothing on the screen, no sparkling candles or anything flickering. It was a lovely quiet space.
Yeah.
We're going to do some more of that this year.
Absolutely. And it's also a bit more contemplative for those people who you may not go, oh, I need a sensory service because I'm fine with bright lights and stuff like that. But it's just slower.
Reflective.
And more reflective, and you're allowed space. And that also works for how I connect with God as well.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And we're going to sing a song now that you chose as well, Amazing Grace, one of your favourites.
Yes, it is. Primarily because of the actual story behind it.
Yeah, yep.
Of John Newton was a slave ship, a captain, and he had this conversion. Yeah. And he then worked for years and was actually a spiritual mentor to William Wilberforce, who was the driving force behind the abolitionist movement in England. In England. Yeah.
England.
And just that God can just show up in the most unlikely places. And it sort of fits. I had the weirdest spiritual moment literally driving between, which way was I going? Up to when I used to work at Colburn, and I literally was driving along, and all of a sudden I just got into my head, God loves you. And I literally had a visceral reaction to that. And grace can turn up in the most unlikely places and in the most unlikely ways, but I'm learning to trust that grace is always there.
I love that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Let's sing about that grace now.